you down, pushing deep until you drown, or they can keep you up strong, focused on the now.
Being that I have the majority of the last 6 months on a 24 Beta 450 RX, I went and picked up a 25 Beta 450 RX. And I didn't really expect much. I saw there was a few changes, and I've seen that before with other manufacturers. You know, they say they made these few minor changes, and they're not really noticeable. I've experienced that with, you know, the Japanese brands and sometimes the KTMs. This bike, though, they made some changes, and it's very noticeable. Every change they made was they listened to the customers, and they made the changes that needed to be made to the bike to refine the bike and make it better. First thing I noticed when I started it up, battery. It starts way easier. It starts instantly. It's got a better battery in it. And then the second thing I noticed was the ECU. So the one thing about the 24 Beta that I felt was second gear ran out a little quick. It was a mid-range bike. I was like, second gear ran out, but the motor was very, very easy to ride. So it's kind of a, it was kind of a toss-up between the two. When I got on this bike, right away, it felt like I had a motor job. I was like, oh my gosh, what did they do to this bike? It's way faster. Second gear pulls way longer. Third pulls easier. And I was a little worried too, because I saw that they went up a tooth in the back, and I'm like, well, that's not going to fix the problem. That's actually going to make the bike run out quicker. Well, the bike being a tooth up in the back, it actually pulls way longer than the 24. If you have a 24, go have them flash the ECU to the 25 settings. Night and day better. I mean, the motor runs clean. There's no hiccups. It doesn't have that weird over rev. You got a 24, have them flash the ECU to a 25. It is a big change to the bike. Foot pegs, I didn't mind the foot pegs from last year, but like other people said, they were slippery. They put some nice sharp foot pegs. You can feel that your feet stay way more planted, can control the bike a lot easier with your feet. And then the suspension. So last year when I got the suspension, I sprung it and I raced it at Glen Helen, and I was blowing through the stroke on the forks. This stock suspension is very reminiscent of my YZ450. It's good. Stock suspension is pretty spot on. All I did when I got it was I just threw the springs for my weight. And if you do get a bike, if you're 200 pounds, don't leave the stock springs in there. It's just not going to work right. Every time I get a bike, that is the first thing I do is I spring it for my weight.
Okay, so one thing that I want to cover is the way that this bike lays the power to the ground. So when you come into a rut, and like, if in motocross, we don't get perfect ruts all the time. You'll get ruts with hooks and whatnot in them. And I've ridden Cowie, Yamaha, Honda, and I've actually, since I've been on the Beta, I've switched to other people's bikes to experience how their bike gets on the power and how the Beta gets on the power when you're initiating through those tricky, inside ruts, and you want that smooth application of throttle. To me, the Beta has the smoothest roll-on from the bottom end out of any 450. And that's one of the things that drives a lot of people nuts with 450s is that, the only way I can explain it is by making noises. So the and then you get on it. And then the bike, pops you up, stands you up in the rut, and it's hard. And, you're trying to do no clutch motos or whatever, and you're trying to roll that power on nice and smooth. The Beta, I can do a no clutch moto very easy. It never feels like it's going to stall on me. It never feels like it stands up. You get on the power and it rolls on nice and smooth, kind of how you would expect it and want it to roll on. It's not a fire-breathing dragon like some of the 450s are, but you need to think about how that power translates to the track. Sometimes exciting, and when you feel like you're hanging off of the back of the bike, you might think you're faster in your mind, but you're not going to be faster. So that smooth transition of power, and I think they've done a really good job with the power plant and making it a very easy 450 ride, almost like I don't know how to explain it, but it just makes it a lot easier to ride. And almost sometimes, when you're rolling that power on initially, it'll feel kind of like a 350 where you're like, oh, I got control of this thing. But then when it finally gets on it, the bike will pull like a 450. So that is a huge benefit to me, is hitting those inside ruts, those corners, and the way the power rolls on through the corner.
So in my old videos, I know I said the bar mounts, you could feel a little bit of vibration when you're cruising around the pits. They put rubber mounted, I think they're X-Trigs. I'm not really sure what they are, but way better. I'm probably going to put my fast bars on just because I like the flex fast bars. Let's go over how the bike works. Power on this thing from 24 to 25, huge noticeable difference. I only know that because I rode a 2024 the day before I picked up the 25. So I have the experience. There's not a lag time. I haven't been riding any other bikes. The 25, and it's all in the ECU. So it's not like you got to go buy a 25 head. It's not like you got to go buy a different pipe or anything. They just fine-tune the ECU. They got the power delivery right where it should be. It's smooth. It rolls. You can hold it on for quite a while longer than you could the 24. Handling. This bike is super stable. Last year I tried 20.5 offset clamps. I didn't really, I liked them in certain situations, but didn't like them in others. And I would pick stability over cornering. So for me, I want stability. I can make the bike corner with a little more input. I prefer the stock clamps. Now that I've gone back and forth, initially I was like, I'm going to leave them on, but I do prefer the stock offset. Somebody else that wants it to turn like a Suzuki, all right, then get the 20.5 millimeters. But I like the stability of this bike. Suspension is great. I'm at the Vet Pro, still local pro level, and I put some springs in, and I feel like I could go race this bike no problem whatsoever. Power is great. I did 6 months. Durability wise, the bike was fantastic. It was right in line with the best bikes that are the most durable out there. Gearing, would I change the gearing? No, they went one tooth up, which is actually what I wouldn't have done on the 24, but the ECU is what made the difference. So now the bike is more responsive and it pulls longer. So it actually covered two things. So the bike's not running out, and it's got more snap off the bottom, a little more pick up and go. The bar mount's huge. This bike works great. When you get adjusted right, you get the right springs in it. This is a really easy to ride and a very fun bike. The power is super rideable, super controllable. There is no crazy hit to it. It's a confidence inspiring bike. When you get on it, you can feel like you can push and push. It never feels like it's going to get away from you. That's one thing with 450s is the newer 450s, they got these crazy horsepower bikes, and sometimes they feel like they're going to get away from you. This bike has enough power, but it's controllable power. Suspension's good, forgiving. Like I said, with setup, run the 95 millimeters, the clamps, right at the line, and this bike's dialed. The tires, the Maxxis tires that come stock, they're okay. I typically run Pirellis. I probably won't put a pipe. I would probably just run this thing stock. I'm going to probably race it stock for a while and, just got it sprung. But yeah, bike handles great. Power's great. It's a fun bike. If you're thinking about getting a beta, even if you have a 24, just go get that ECU flash to the 25 and you'll be ready to rock. It is a huge noticeable difference.